The Gulf Coast is full of neighborhoods like this one in Port Arthur, where children play among the smokestacks of refineries and petrochemical plants. Al Jazeera visited this town before it was flooded by Tropical Storm Harvey. It's in the shadow of the U.S.'s largest oil refinery. Port Arthur is nicknamed Cancer Alley due to its residents' elevated levels of cancer and respiratory problems. And despite Saudi Aramco's assertions that toxic emissions have been cut drastically at this plant, local residents aren't convinced.
When I come outside and I hit a bell, I'll be like, oh, they released something. And I'll go in the house and close the door back.
Harvey has meant the refinery has shut down, along with many other oil, gas and petrochemical installations on the Gulf. And when operations are halted, the companies then burn off excess chemicals straight into the air. Over the last few days, the Environmental Defense Fund has looked into these industries' filings to regulators and has calculated that more than 2 million pounds of hazardous fumes have been released into the air since Harvey. The problem is there's no way to independently verify those regulatory submissions. The region's air quality monitors were all switched off to avoid storm damage, and environmental groups are skeptical.
I don't think that historically we can trust what industry is telling us in terms of what has been emitted. I think even if you look at the Exxon Baytown facility recent judgment in terms of violating the Clean Air Act over 16,000 times, I think that tells a very good story.
Texas prides itself on being business-friendly. Cities like Houston don't even have official zoning laws, which is one reason why low-income communities live adjacent to the toxic smokestacks, and why so many plants are built in locations vulnerable to coastal flooding.
Here we see the center of the oil refining industry itself being impacted by our addiction to oil.
Politicians in both Texas and Washington, D.C. say now is not the time for environmental politics. But a storm of Harvey's ferocity had long been predicted by climate scientists when the sky was clear, with little interest from those same politicians, which is why many argue now is exactly the time for a debate about regulation and climate change. Shihab, Rattansi, Al Jazeera, Beaumont, Texas.